So many of you were thinking really carefully about the fact that entrepreneurship is people-centric, it's bottom-up, and that you, in some of your takeaways, you shared that you flagged that it really provoked you to think about who you're nominating as the lead entrepreneur, if this is the right opportunity for them. And I remember, I think it was Claire from Causeway, your reflection around well-being and self-worth and how that's really important when you're considering who you're putting forward, which really resonated with me. So today we then move on from thinking about entrepreneurship and the entrepreneur to now focus on the really exciting bit of it all, which is your ideas. And then after the Impact Festival next week, I'll be having one-to-ones with applicants. So make sure you book in. And again, after I stop sharing my screen, I'll pop in my Calendly. If you haven't booked in, please do. So on to today's session. I am so utterly delighted to have our 5 fantastic current Intrapreneurship Award winners. I won't introduce them each individually because they'll be introducing themselves when they're presenting at different points. But I will say that apart from obviously their experience of entrepreneurship, they really bring a wealth of expertise from a variety of perspectives. We've got Louise, who from Springwell, who's a teacher in alternative provision. Phil from the Centre of Education and Youth is a researcher. Will from Power 2 brings fantastic knowledge of youth leadership and programme development. Saara from CoachBright was a primary school teacher and now is leading the primary programme, so lots of insight on, again, programme development. And Sophie from Yes Futures heads up their impact work and also innovation at Yes Futures. So they really bring a great variety of perspectives, as well as their experience of actually being on the support programme. Today, they will be leading us through a few different activities, all with the aim of helping you build your confidence in articulating your idea and refining your thinking around your idea. So I think the flow of today is kind of roughly as follows. Sophie's going to kick us off with some fun networking to get you warmed up for a chatty session today and to build those relationships. Louise will then take us through an individual reflection on your idea before Phil's activity that will get you really talking and working to refine that problem and solution. And then after that, we've kept some time for kind of small group Q&A with the award winners, and I'll break you out and you can bring your questions from the activities as well as other questions you might have that you might want to, get their expertise as a researcher or their expertise as a teacher about refining your idea. And then finally, the wonderful Saara will close us off with some reflection to consolidate our learning. I know they've really built in loads of opportunity for discussion and talking today, so do please have your cameras on when we're in breakouts if that's possible. And I think it's a great opportunity to practice kind of speaking about your idea before you move to that written application, because sometimes kind of talking it out loud can be the best way to help you refine it, ensure you're being clear, but also identify the bits that you're like, yeah, I might need to go away and think about that in a bit more detail. But we do massively appreciate that you are at idea stage and you might not have everything ironed out yet. So this is an informal space to kind of practice, hear from very friendly faces and get their tips and advice on how you might refine. So without further ado, I will stop sharing my screen and hand over to Sophie.
Thanks, Tish. And yeah, just to echo what Tish said, great to see so many of you here at the beginning of a really exciting journey of the Intrapreneurship Award. So yeah, as Tish said, I'm Sophie. I'm the Director of Impact at Yes Futures, and I won the award for our Strength System, which is a package of personal development resources designed to help students, Key Stage 3 students, to explore their strengths and understand how they can use them to be successful. And yeah, I've taken so much from being on the awards over the last 6-7 months, and it's been a really great experience, like on a personal level and for an organisation. I think we've made great progress on lots of different areas, like our impact measurement and lots of ideas about our kind of marketing and product development, but also personally I've made a lot of progress in like leadership skills, and collaboration has been a really important part of the programme too. So in kind of the spirit of collaboration, I'm going to get us kicked off with a bit of a fun icebreaker activity to give you a chance to get to know each other a little bit. I think the kind of support and collaboration between all of my fellow award winners has been such an important part of the award. The support's not only been about our kind of idea, but about connecting as individuals, having a bit of fun, and getting to know each other. So I'm going to quickly share my screen. So as this is the Impact Festival, we've got a festival themed icebreaker. Now, unfortunately, I don't think any of us have been to a festival in quite a long time. I think we're all probably missing a bit of fun and a bit of sunshine. So we're going to split into breakout rooms, and I'd like you to share what your dream festival would be. So where would the location be? Who would your headline artist be? And what food and drink stand would you like? So to kick you off, my location would be on a nice warm beach somewhere, because I am missing the sunshine. I'd like to be sung to by the Lighthouse family, nice and relaxed, and I'd like some Mexican tacos and a margarita in my hand. So in the spirit of festivals, I think Tisha's now going to break us up into small groups, and you've got about 5 minutes, I think, to share, introduce yourselves and share your dream festival.
I hope you all enjoyed that activity. I'm Louise from Springwell Alternative Academy in Spalding, and our innovation was to set up an early years foundation stage classroom within our alternative provision, so that those children that are at risk of exclusion or have been excluded will have specific quality support in the early years. My version of the problem and the solution have been refined time and time again over the whole process, from right at the start of the application, right even to now, where the solution is still being refined, and I'm still looking at whether the problem is really the problem or not. And it's been a fantastic journey through the incubator sessions. So I'm going to lead us through an activity to help you reflect on your current understanding of your idea. I'm just going to share my screen, so just bear with me. We'll do it, and I'm hoping you can see that. Fantastic. So this will support understanding the problem and the solution for your theory of change. And a theory of change is basically a roadmap for designing, implementing and evaluating a programme of work. So it's where you start with the problem and you work backwards to see what your long-term goals will be. And once you've completed it, it provides an overall framework to describe the change that you want to see and how you're going to make it happen. During the Impact Festival, Football Beyond Borders have led a great session on this, and if you've missed it, you can access the recording of that as well. During the theory of change sessions, we worked on digging deeper into our problem and getting a real understanding of the fundamental steps needed for developing our impactful initiatives. And we considered then from there what our solutions might be and how effective, how we could measure that. I'm going to lead us through a short activity to start some thinking on this, which is mind map journaling, something that we've used in the incubator sessions, and I've personally found really useful, as the questions that have been asked actually weren't things that I'd thought about previously, or they helped me see a different perspective. So we're going to have just a very short time, 2 minutes, to answer each question. So in the middle of your page, you've got a piece of paper. Can you sum up your problem in 1 sentence? So from my point of view, my problem was young children excluded from school and not being supported to achieve their full potential. So that was just summing up the problem in 1 sentence. hopefully you'll have managed to summarise your problem in one sentence. I know that that can be quite tricky. But the next question is, can you list as many causes of the problem and identify the audience or stakeholder for that cause? So it might be that alternative provision schools don't have appropriate early years spaces. It could be that there's a lack of funding. It could be that there's a lack of space. It could be a lack of understanding that the teachers have, specific teachers. So what are the causes of that problem? Okay, now we've thought about the causes of the problem, I'd now like you to sum up your solution in a few words. So it's just summing up your solution in just a few words. In my example, it could be teachers in mainstream schools do not have the knowledge, support needs, and quality and inclusive alternative provision, early years space and curriculum would be our solution. Our final question I want you to think about is to list as many of the changes that you think your solution will lead to. What changes do you hope will happen when you implement your solution? So in my case, it might be that we see improved behaviour. It might be that senior leadership of alternative provision schools have improved knowledge of early years foundation stage. What changes are you hoping that your solution will lead to? Okay, I'm going to pause there and see if anybody's got any questions that they'd like to ask. No, all good so far. Fantastic. Well, feel free to ask at any point. I'm now going to pass over to Phil, who's going to build on your individual reflection of your problem and solution with some paired discussion. So over to you, Phil.
Cheers, Louise. 2 seconds. Just going to share my screen. Oh, can we all see that all right?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, wicked. Okay, cool. So thank you very much, Louise. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all. I'm Phil. I'm an ex-primary teacher, and I'm currently a researcher at the Centre for Education and Youth. We're a think tank and a social enterprise, and we specialise in issues relating to marginalised youth in particular. So I'm going to talk a bit about how we can refine our ideas so that we can make the most compelling case that we can when we're applying for the award. Beg your pardon. I'm going to use our own intrapreneurship, the CFEY's intrapreneurship project as an example. So I won't tell you too much about it yet because I'm going to elaborate on it in a bit. And you want to think about your own projects anyway. So we're going to think first about refining our understanding of the problem itself that we're trying to solve, and then we're going to have a think about what we're doing to achieve that. So it's going to be kind of similar to Louise's one, but it's going to be a bit more combative, as you'll see when we get to the examples. So for starters, we need to be super clear on what social problem it is that we're actually trying to make better, because that's a key goal of the FEA running this award in the first place. So what's the problem here? What was the problem for CFEY? Well, in our case, the sort of problem that we wanted to tackle was that commissioning research is really, really, really expensive. Okay, so that's our basic problem. So I hope you're ready, because I'm about to teach you the secret to refining your application, right? It's pretty edgy stuff here, but are you ready? Right, okay. Why is that bad? Why is that bad? That's the secret. These 4 words are your new catchphrase when you're thinking about your project, your problem that you're trying to solve. So if you're looking to refine your idea, you just need to basically keep, or at least I found this helpful, keep asking yourself this question pretty much ad absurdum. So test it out on the problem that CFEY are trying to tackle, and then you'll have a chance to practice it yourselves. So like I said, our central problem is that research is really expensive. So why is that bad? Well, research being expensive means that if you're a smaller organisation, like a local charity or a school or even an individual, commissioning research is often out of reach. Okay, why is that bad? So we believe that the best practice is informed by the best research. So if you're, I don't know, a small local charity working with young homeless people in your area, wouldn't it be nice to see what's worked for others doing similar work, or to hear what young homeless people have said when we've interviewed them for past projects we've done on that topic? I mean, that isn't necessarily easy to access at the moment. Why is that bad? Well, it's not ideal if only big rich organisations have access to a key means of improving support to young people, is it? So if we want to help as many people as possible, we want to break that monopoly, or at least bruise it a little bit, because I don't think we'll fundamentally undermine the fact that research costs money. I think that's a bit out of the scope of our project. So we're at least level the playing field a bit. And we can continue asking ourselves, why is this bad, pretty much forever. I'm pretty happy with this as an example for now, so I'm going to stop it there. And what we're going to do is, in a sec, we're going to break out into randomly assigned pairs and do a really quick fire round of practicing why is that bad on each other. So you're going to have 10 minutes, 5 minutes each. Don't worry too much about introductions or anything. Just quickly decide who's going first. Briefly state what your problem is, or a key part of your problem that you're looking at. And then just get grilling the other person, going, why is that bad? Why is that bad? Why is that bad? Okay. I'm not going to come in and spy on you particularly. Just, yeah, go for it. So, Tish, if you could break us out, please. All right, wicked. We're all back. Fantastic. So let me just do my screen again. All right. Cool. So I hope that was helpful. Just before we continue, actually, Sorry, I've shared my screen prematurely. Just before we continue, I don't want to make people sit in breakout rooms are way too long. So if that was too much time, I can't extend it sadly, but I can shorten. If that was too much time, you just do a thumbs down on the reaction just so I can gauge it. All right, wicked, cool. Let's carry on then. Let's share my screen properly this time. Fab, cool. So we've got a bit of a clearer sense of what the problem is, dug into the root of it and that sort of thing, and rough sense of what it is that we actually want to achieve. So it's time to think about the solution we're proposing, right? So again, we'll take what CFEY are doing as an example. So I've been developing a search tool to make it easier for us to dig through all our old research data. Good, top pitch, right? Really compelling. And I'm sure you can all see why the FEA wanted to give us loads of money to achieve that goal. No, okay, so obviously that's crap. So again, I hope you're ready because I'm going to teach you the other secret to refining your applications. I bet you can't guess what it is. Why is that good? Okay, so exactly the same idea as before, except this time we're going to be thrashing out the solution and we'll think and why we think it'll actually help. Okay, so like I said, we've got our search tool that makes it easier for CFEY to dig through their old research data. So why is that good? Well, for starters, research is really expensive to run. So this would be a lot cheaper than going out and doing loads of field work. Okay, well, why is that good? Well, it might not be quite as amazing as commissioning brand new top flight original research, but a cheap summary of what we found out over the years might be more affordable for smaller charities or schools or individuals, like we've said, who work closely with young people. Lovely. Why is that good? Well, if we're lucky, and if we put in some quality PR work, other research organisations might want to copy us and open up their archives too. Fantastic. Well, why is that good? If we reduce the barrier to entry to research, to accessing research, even a little bit, then that means that more people on the ground, so the kinds of organisations we talked about, can also benefit from our work, a lot of which often ends up only being used internally by the people who commission it. So it would be accessible not just to those with the funds to commission new research. So given that we believe that great education and youth work is backed up by great research, this means that those hardworking people on the front lines can continue to ensure that the young people they're working with receive the best, most effective support possible. And again, we can keep going with why is that good until we're blue in the face, but I'm going to stop it there. So again, time to break out quickly, same deal as before, 10 minutes, 5 minutes each. Skip the introductions, just quickly decide who's going first, minimally state your solution or a key part of it, and then get grilling. Why is that good? Why is that good? Okay. Tish, do you mind breaking us out again? Thank you. All right, brilliant. Well, again, I hope that was similarly enlightening for everyone. And that is actually everything I was going to cover today. You know, we've got quite short slots here, so that's it. Why is that bad? Why is that good? That's my deep insight for you. But to be fair, it is something that I find personally quite helpful when you just boil it down to like that really stupid question, like over and over again. It forces you to think more about the problem. So funny on the surface, but I hope it's actually useful to you. And I hope if you apply this sort of thing, you're more likely to have a really solid understanding of what it is you're proposing that's going to make your application a lot stronger. Okay. And so, yeah, thanks very much for listening. I think Will is now going to take over and tell you a bit about himself and his work, and then he's got some more activities lined up, I think. And yeah, thanks very much. And over to you, Will.
Oh, sorry, Will, you're on mute.
I keep tapping it, but for some reason, I don't know what's happening this morning. Morning, everyone. Thanks, Phil. So first of all, it's just been great kind of being in these little breakout rooms and kind of getting to meet some of you and seeing your ideas. You're definitely further along than I was when we did this. So I feel sorry for you, Tish, because competition has definitely stepped up this go around. As Phil said, my name's Will. I work for Power 2. I'm head of program development. and we're a national youth organisation primarily in London and Manchester, and we support young people to improve their well-being, and then through experiential learning, and essentially by proxy they build up their interpersonal skills and their well-being to kind of better engage with school/education. So that's a bit about what we do at Power 2. So for my section of this activity, we're just going to go into kind of small breakout rooms again to further just discuss what Louise and Phil, some of the activities they took us through, just to see how you guys felt about that, your initial thoughts, and for you to just kind of have that extended conversation within those groups again and discuss anything that might come up, ask us some questions, and then we'll aim to answer them. And obviously anything we can't, we'll bring it back to Tish, and hopefully she'll be able to give you some more information. Can I just ask that when you're in those breakout rooms, if you can nominate someone kindly to just give a quick summary when we come back to the wider group of just some of the key points that you may have discussed. So Tish is going to break us out into rooms now.
And as we're quite a small group, what I think I'll do is 2 groups that's just randomly allocated, and the award winners will be split between the 2. So as Will said, kind of 3 things to chat about, any questions or reflections from the activities you've done with Louise and Phil in thinking about your problem solution. Then any broader questions you have for the award winners about how they have found refining their problem and solution. And I'd really urge you to also think about the fact, yes, they're entrepreneurs, but as I mentioned, they bring really valuable insights from a variety of perspectives. We've got teachers here, we've got researchers here, head of programs, head of impact. So, you know, do feel free to be broader in your questions. And as they said, if there's something they feel they can't answer, they will say, and we'll bring it back to the main room. And then do nominate that person to share some of the kind of key takeaways from that discussion. I'll pop into both rooms. So we'll break out for just around 10 minutes and I'll pop into both rooms, so about 5 minutes in each. Cool, see you shortly.
Okay, welcome back everyone. Hope that was useful. I know it wasn't as much time, but hopefully you had some meaningful conversation. I suppose we'll start with the group that Phil and I were in. I don't know if we've got any brave takers to just kind of give a summary to the group, to the wider group, of what we discussed and any kind of key takeaways that you got from the conversation.
Yeah, I'm happy to feedback, Will.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, we all sort of discussed our ideas in a bit of detail. So I was in a group with Atika and Amelia, and one other person I can't see on here, with Phil and Will, and Emma, sorry. Yeah, yeah, talked a bit about kind of Will and Phil's experiences of the kind of journey of their idea. And I suppose what kind of my key takeaways were just from what Will mentioned there. He talked a lot about the impact goal and the importance of like having that kind of vision really clear right from the start and everything filtering through that. So, you know, meeting with the one-to-ones with Tisha and speaking to stakeholders, the assumption of the idea and the impact they would make, I think, and every tweak that they made along the way came back to, is this taking us closer to achieving our impact goal? And that was sort of the question that was the heading of every conversation, it seemed like, from what we were saying. So yeah, I think that was a really interesting takeaway from meeting them.
Thanks, Tom. I'll just add to that really quickly, because I'd popped into that room as they were, Will and Phil had signposted a colleague, Bart, that had one-to-ones with us during the theory of change process, and I thought that might be helpful kind of context. So we have our fortnightly one-to-ones, the main aim being, well, 2 aims. One is for me to provide where I can kind of direct guidance, obviously support, be a sounding board, etc. But a big part of my role is to broker in support on a bespoke basis from the wider network, if that is helpful. So really hope to use those one-to-ones for the entrepreneurs to voice up things that they need and try and broker in that support from the wider network. But in the September to December part of the one-to-ones, they'll also be joined by our head of impact and evaluation. So the FEA's head of impact and evaluation, who we've just recruited for, and will be joining, I think, in about 3 weeks, will be also supporting through that theory of change process in the incubator, but also in the one-to-ones. as we didn't have a head of impact and evaluation in place for this year's cohort, we had Bart from Cure join us on a consultancy basis, and he was supporting with that kind of theory of change and impact measurement setup. So just a bit of clarity on who Bart is and how the head of impact role will also be really kind of instrumental in the support, particularly in that September to December period. Sorry, Will.
Oh, no worries. Thanks, Tish. And can we just hand over to the second group, any volunteers, to just give us a summary of what you guys discussed and any key points that came out of it?
I am happy to contribute. I think Tom pretty much nailed it. Most of the general benefits we all got from this morning's sessions in terms of clarity of thinking through our proposal and being interrogated on that. I think the one unanswered query that Claire and Nora had, it's just detailing, does the entrepreneur have to work full-time for the 6 months on this? Because there seemed to be that some of last year's applicants may not have had to. So is this getting more strictly enforced this year? And I don't want to compromise anyone's position or whatever there, but that's what it came up. Is that?
Yeah, great question, Mark. Thank you for that question. So yeah, so this year is a pilot. So this will be the second time that we're running it, and lots of learnings that will have been taken into account for some of the changes in eligibility. What the intent, ideally, yes, we want the entrepreneur to be full-time 6 months on the initiative, and that's what the salary, the grant is there for, right? It's to free them up from their other role. So either the organisation is using that money to be able to backfill the role and pull in other members of the team to support the work that they're being freed up from doing. But at the same time, I am really conscious that there might be teams that are quite small and might need, the entrepreneur to do certain bits. And I'm really happy to discuss that, but would love to understand that from the off. So I'm really looking forward to the one-to-ones to see a few people have emailed me with some different kind of proposals and ideas. So the full-time request is that both that the entrepreneur has the time to develop the idea, they have the capacity to kind of give to it, drive it forward for 6 months, because ideally by the end of the year, we do want them to have developed it, tested it, and be quite clear on how it's going to be embedded in the organization. And that is quite a lot to do in a short period of time. So we want them to be able to have the time to do that. And the grant is there to hopefully free them up to have that time. But also the support program is quite intensive. You've got these fortnightly incubator sessions, you've got one-to-ones, Bloomberg mentoring. So to get the most out of that, we also therefore expect that they won't be able to really do a lot of their other role. Otherwise, it might feel like they're just giving lots of time to things, but not having, reaping the benefit from it. So that's the rationale. However, I am totally open to understanding different organizations' situations and really happy to discuss that in one-to-ones. It's super helpful if I can, in the one-to-one, if you kind of just provide the context on the org, and if you have a particular proposal for me to understand how it would work. The main thing for me is that I just want to ensure they have the capacity to give to the support program to get the most out of it. Is the kind of main bit. That being said, it is a really small cohort. We only take 5 intentionally, so can flex. Like this year, like no other, has been, I think, as we are all aware, really challenging in many ways, personally and professionally, for organisations. So we have been flexible to enable orgs to kind of pull the entrepreneur into other projects where other staff have been furloughed, etc., for example. So really happy to chat about it in one-to-ones. Does that help on that question about the full time?
That's perfect.
Thank you. Great. Any other questions that I can address before we wrap up? Musetta? Sorry, Musetta, you're on mute. So sorry, I didn't see you on mute there. And then I'll come to you next, Emma.
Sorry. Okay, so what I was asking was, where could I find some information about the winners so far?
Yeah, so these 5 are our fantastic current winners, and on our website, which I'll pop into the chat in 1 second, if you go to the Intrapreneurship Award page, which is here. You can find individual pages on each of them that also links to their organisational pages.
Lovely, thank you very much.
No problems. Emma, you had a question.
I did, and I was just wondering, I know this might sound a bit greedy, Tish, but if we feel like our 20-minute one-to-one with you that is booked is not enough time, because we're going to, you know, we're going to want to chat about a few things, is there an option for us to book a second, or is that going to be, you know already that you're not going to have time for that, or, you know, might you be able to let us know at the end of the session whether you think another one would be useful? What, wondered about that.
That's a great question, Emma. So I mentioned that I've changed the workshop that was scheduled for the 6th of May to free up that whole half day for one-to-ones, with this question in mind, that a few applicants have said, oh, will 20 minutes be enough? So what I'm urging everyone to do is maybe book in a bit earlier in the week. So if you've booked a later one that's sort of towards the 14th of May, I'd actually urge you to maybe cancel that, take one of the earlier slots, and then if we need another one, we can get that in, because I'm really happy to have a bit longer. I think I'd initially said just one, depending on the kind of numbers, if this year we had like dramatically more numbers than I would expect, but I think we're around the 25 mark, so I should more than be able to in the week be able to fit in all the one-to-ones at least once, and if others would like another chat, to go for it as well. I'll pop my Calendly in here too, so everyone can book in.
Would you advise us to book the second one already, or would you, if we've got another one?
I'd advise book a first one, book it earlier,
Yeah.
you can book just one, and then so that
We'll decide together.
Open, yeah. But yeah. I've cleared quite a lot of my calendar, so I'm feeling confident that if should people need another chat, I can definitely accommodate that before the 14th. Cool. And for those of you that haven't booked in yet, my Calendly is just popping into the chat now. Cool. Now I am conscious of time, and I know Saara has a little reflection activity for us. But what I was going to suggest, Saara, is I think you had some chatting involved, but with time, I'm wondering if we do it as a bit of an individual reflection, not break out into to discussing that. Give me time just to close the session, because there is another Impact Fest call after this, so we'll need to end on the dot. So over to you, Saara.
Thank you, teacher. Yeah, I was thinking the same. Together a little bit already. Well, I hope that today has given you some tools to grow and develop your innovation. Like Tisha said, I'm Saara. I'm the head of primary at CoachBright, and it's so lovely to be here with you all today. For those of you that haven't come across CoachBright before, we're a social mobility charity. We run attainment and independence raising programs for young people from disadvantaged backgrounds all across the country. My role has been to create and to develop our work in primary schools this academic year. And this has only been possible because of the FEA's Intrapreneurship Award. Our incubator sessions, a little bit like today, have always been full of new ideas and packed with great learning. And I found that taking time to reflect at the end of each session has really helped to make that learning digestible and actionable. It's also a great chance to share thoughts with others on the programme too, which has been a personal highlight for me. So bringing together all the different bits that we've explored in the time we've had together today, Louise's silent journaling that prompted us to think deeper about the problem that your idea is addressing, and Phil sharing those secrets with us to refining your proposal and making a compelling case for your award, Will leading the section on giving you a chance to hear from the experiences of those who have been experiencing it this year. And since 3 is the magic number, I would love to invite you to think about 3 things from the session today. And like Tisha said, we'll just have some time to think independently. And then if you feel comfortable or you'd like to share some of those as a group, then it'd be lovely to hear. Bear with me as I just share my screen. I feel like we've been doing this for a year, but each time I had to press the button, it still kind of filled you with anxiety, hoping the tech will work. So hopefully, if I present, give me a nod if you can see that. Yeah, Perfect. Okay. I was really excited about this picture. I thought it represented what today was about, which is all about growing your idea and supporting you with the tools to hopefully help you progress on that journey. So the three things that I'd love to invite you to reflect on. One, what's been your biggest takeaway today from the different parts of our time together? Two, any other questions that you have? And I'm conscious that some of you might have questions that were prompted by the conversations we just had, or something else that you still want to know more about. And finally, has this given you an action, or what's your next step that you're going to kind of go away with to strengthen your idea? So just a couple of minutes to have a chance to reflect and bring together all the different things that we've talked about. I hope I haven't been too stingy with the timing. Tisha, you reckon we're okay to start sharing? Yeah,
we can take a minute of sharing and then I'll do a quick speed wrap up.
Perfect. Either of those kind of numbers, if you feel comfortable sharing, it'd be lovely to hear some of your reflections.
I can go.
Yeah, go for it, Nora.
So my biggest takeaway was that I have a clear idea of what the problem is and the causes of the problem. And I suppose the whole point of the program of the award would be working on the solution. I think the solution, and then also the changes that we want to see, is that in the young person or in the young people we're helping, or is it in the parents? Because our idea is, our solution is centered around supporting parents, and how we build that picture stronger. And then I think my next step or action is actually, I loved the format that I think it was Louise took us through at the start. And so I'm going to go away and do that with my entrepreneur, and I think I know she's full of ideas, so I think she'll be able to answer some of those questions that I have around the solution, because she lives and breathes it on a daily basis. So, and then also booking in a session with Tisha. So yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing, Nora. That sounds really helpful. And I share a similar experience from when we started this process and really delved deeper into that problem and what the solution is, and refining that in how we understand it and then how we communicate that to others too. So really glad to hear that was useful for you.
I'm happy to do the same if you want one more.
Go for it, Mark. Absolutely.
Okay. Very simple. Number one, focusing how my idea is going to close the gap, very briefly. Number two, will my idea win the approval of the of Nisha ultimately in the first instance? And I'm going to find that out by fleshing out the idea and consulting with a few of my favorite contact teachers at schools where we already work prior to the one-to-one with Nisha. That's what I've taken away from this session, and I didn't know that 2 hours ago. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing, Mark. And I think Musetta and I definitely put you through a tough time with all the grilling questions for what's good and what's bad about that when we were in a breakout room together. So I'm glad that it's helped you along that journey too. And well, thank you so much for your participation today. It's been wonderful hearing snippets of all your fantastic ideas, and I really hope that the time together today has given you a chance to build connections with others. It's given you a better understanding of how the award programme can support your innovations, and hopefully some new strategies to strengthen your application. Tisha, I'm going to hand back to you and I'll stop sharing my screen.
Amazing. Thanks, Saara. Thank you for sharing those reflections. Nora, love that you're going to do that exercise with the entrepreneur to flag at shortlisting. I'm just confirming with the judges, but I would love to have the lead entrepreneur present to the shortlisting panel, but have a senior member of the organisation with them at shortlisting to participate in the Q&A, because this is an award for an individual and an organisation. So I think as much as you can bring that lead entrepreneur with you as you're developing the idea, if you haven't identified them yet, that's really critical. At shortlisting, you can be there with them to kind of engage in the Q&A, but we would want them to be the presenter. But then at final, we'll ask just the lead entrepreneur and not a senior member from the organisation to be there. So great that you're already thinking about how you bring them on the journey with you as you're thinking about that solution refinement. Mark, brilliant. Also so pleased that it kind of helped you clarify that question around like, how is this really addressing a particular area that I want to close in terms of getting those young people the support they need. Cool. I'm conscious that we are at time, so very rapid fire. As you know, feedback is super important to us because we are running this Impact Festival for the first time. So I'm just going to quickly launch the poll and would love you to quickly rate that for me. There it is. Cool. So whilst that's on your screen, I'll also just take a minute to firstly remind you that this is the last day of the Impact Festival, and there is one session left this afternoon that you might like to join, which is focused on how to use school data impactfully, led by two of our Scaling Award winners, Impact Ed and Learning with Parents, Amelia's organisation. So that will be really fab. So do pop along to that this afternoon. If you haven't already, book into a one-to-one with me. And then my very final thing to ask you to do is to either pop off mute or use your Zoom reactions to give a massive thank you to the 5 current award winners for just running a really fun, engaging, chatty session where you could ask your questions and just kind of practice talking about your ideas so they become less scary, so that when you're doing it at the panel, you feel really confident that you've actually just talked about it a lot already. So huge round of applause. Thank you, award winners.
Thank you.
Woo! Woo! Great. I can see just one more person to vote, I think.
Thanks.
Cool. Fab. Yeah, great. I think everyone's voted. Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone. Have an absolutely fantastic day. I cannot wait to have one-to-ones to properly get into the weeds of your idea. If you want to send me any questions before the one-to-one, do that. As I mentioned, I won't be able to mark applications, but I'm really happy to kind of read bits and bobs to prep so that I can make sure that we use the time effectively. Cool. Have a great day and maybe see you at Impact Fest this afternoon, or definitely one-to-ones next week. Bye.
Bye.